So this is another Ziem painting of Constantinople, and the frame on this is actually a modern frame made out of a poured resin material. It's a cast polymer that is poured into a mold, and it has a distinctive look to it. If you look at some of the details, you can see some of the areas where the casting hasn't quite set right, and there's a metal leaf finish, a gold metal leaf, on the surface. But the liner is finished exactly the same way as the other one is. That is, water gilding with the lap lines, and you can see the lap lines of the leaf, whereas this is really quite even. It's a faithful imitation of a Régence frame that certainly is something that shows the painting off in contrast to the one we just saw, one with the original frame and one with an imitation. It makes a good study in contrasts. This 1943 Picasso is got a frame on it that has really great design ideas that relate to the painting. You see these passages are all divided up in little triangles, and the frame does the same thing. So to me, it's an exciting combination of design meeting the canvas. What also is interesting is that you have a crackle finish on it, and this crackle finish is actually done by taking paper and gessoing it and rolling it. And it gets cracks in the gesso, and then it's glued down to the surface. Then it's gilded, and on top of that you have the triangular patterns here. These sort of chevrons is created by punching with metal stamping tools called granito. And it's wonderful how they've created the pattern as it lines up into the corner. Every corner is even because they changed the size of the diamonds ever so slightly as it gets to the corner. So you're imitating the older frames, yet it's a modern frame. And with the linen liner and again another gilded lip on the inside of it, you have that combination of gold, linen, gold, then the frame, and then you have this wonderful travertine wall, which pretty much the same tonality as the linen liner is. So Mr. Krieger's aesthetic of the environment, the architecture of the room, all of this relates to how well this works within the environment of the museum. This is a provincial Louis XIV frame. It's very simple in its construction, yet it imitates a lot of the high-style Parisian frames. May have been made in the south of France, maybe close to Italy, but it has a loose quality to it. The liner has been added to it. This frame is somewhat scrubbed down as well, like the other Decapé frames. But what's interesting about the composition in the painting is that he's incorporated a gadrooned edge of a frame or a piece of furniture to sort of set off the composition, and the pointillist business is going down into and sort of spilling out underneath this. So you have lots of little points of color, and also in the frame you have little dabs of white that are coming through. So you end up with a nice sympathetic look. Travertine wall, the linen, which is slightly discolored, and this very soft tertiary tones of the canvas all really work together. You don't notice the frame. You see the painting that is sort of beautifully presented with this frame. This portrait of Mrs. Krieger is depicted in her in a Spanish outfit, and it stands to reason that the frame is also Spanish 17th century design. It's black and gold, and the dress that she's wearing is black, background somewhat lighter coming in here, so you have that contrast of the frame. But what's interesting is that you have this highly burnished gold that's been toned down with an asphaltum glaze so that it's not too glaring. The whole thing is beautifully conceived. These Spanish frames are typically have a reverse profile, and what I mean by that is that the painting comes forward and then the frame falls back from it, as opposed to the other pieces which are scooped profiles. So this is distinctive in that quality. This is the typical Spanish corner, and it has what's called an ear pattern because it resembles the human ear, this scroll right here. So you can see that the Spanish frame is perfect with the lady dressed in Spanish outfit, and turns out she was from Puerto Rico and her parents were from Spain, so it's all fitting that this has that national characteristic.